Hello. I'm so honored to be here today sharing the stage with such distinguished doctors and researchers who are making so many wonderful contributions to the advancement of cancer treatment. I know it's unusual for a patient to be given such an honor, and I thank Dr. Xu for inviting me. As a patient who's benefited from the new thinking on how best to treat cancer, I'm especially happy to be with you here today. I'm not a scientist, my career is in the arts, so there's no charts. I'm going to show you my paintings to tell you my story. But first I'd like to give you a challenge, because I firmly believe that it's time for cryoablation to replace the mastectomy. I'd like to see cryoablation move from being considered experimental to becoming the new gold standard for breast cancer treatment. It's time for the world to learn that cryoablation immune system stimulation, like what they do here at Fuda Hospital, are likely a far better way for women than the mastectomy, and that the odds of beating cancer and surviving are superior with this combination than with the mastectomy combined with chemotherapy. This is my challenge to my fellow participants of this conference, to help cryoablation combined with immune therapy become the new gold standard for breast cancer. It's time for breast cancer to become part of the picture and for women to learn that keeping your breast rather than removing it can actually increase your chances of survival. Now I'll begin my story. Oops. I want to begin by quoting something written by my husband, Alex. Cancer hits your life like a tsunami. It crashes through buildings, finds you at night, and drowns you. Cancer wrenches your life around, forcing you to pay attention to it with a constant fearful reminder, I have cancer. My wife has cancer. My husband has cancer. Someone I love has cancer. I was hit with my cancer tsunami when I was diagnosed with multifocus breast cancer in early 2003. It was Valentine's Day in America, a day of love and tenderness, and I looked at my body with love, and I did not want to lose my breast to a mastectomy as my doctors recommended, even though they assured me that a mastectomy was the gold standard of care. At the time of my diagnosis, my third child and daughter, Emma, who's here in the audience today, was 13 years old. Emma is now 25. Emma? Do you want to? There she is. It's my biggest desire and my highest hope that doctors like those assembled here in this room today will move cryoablation as a treatment for breast cancer from being experimental to being widely available, like it is here at Fuda, and covered by insurance by the time my daughter and her friends are at the age that they may be faced with their own breast cancer diagnosis. I was 13, like my daughter was when my mother was first diagnosed with breast cancer. She was treated with mastectomy, and she died 4 years later. So I've had 35 years after my mother's death to think about what I would do if I got breast cancer. I didn't want to just survive cancer. I wanted to defeat it. Having a body part removed seemed like the cancer would have won a victory over me. I hated cancer for taking my mother, and I didn't want it to have that victory. I didn't want to leave my 3 children motherless. I set my intention to find a better way to save my breasts and be medically proven cancer-free. This painting, entitled Leap, helped me make the decision that a new technique called cryoablation might just be what I needed to achieve my goal. In the painting, we see a woman confidently jumping out of a tree, yet we don't know where she's going to land. In the same way, I made my decision to keep my breasts, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. Fortunately, we found Dr. Peter Littrow, who is an early pioneer of cryoablation. I believe that Dr. Littrop was a great artist of this new technique he helped pioneer, and I knew in my heart it would work for me, even though he had never used it on breast cancer before. If it didn't work, I reasoned, I could still get the mastectomy my doctors offered, but I wanted to try cryoablation first. This painting, called Juggle, also helped me decide. It was the last painting I did before I found out I had breast cancer. In fact, getting ready for a painting exhibit in San Francisco, which this painting was included in, was the reason I was late in getting my annual mammogram. Not getting the mammogram sooner was probably the reason my cancer was not found early enough for me to get a lumpectomy. Whoops. Sorry. I don't know where the laser is, but in the painting we see that there's a mysterious third hand holding a round white ball, much like the freeze ball used in Dr. Littrop's treatment. It was as if my subconscious had premeditated that I would need a helping hand that wasn't my own. The fact that the third hand in my painting had a white ball, much like the freeze ball used in cryoablation, well, that just felt like it was a sign from heaven that Dr. Littrop was going to save me, like the third hand in the painting. The operation was a big success, and I've remained cancer-free for 11 years. During that time, my husband and I developed a website, keepingthem.com, to help other women know about this possibility for them. I've talked to lots of these women who wanted to save their breasts and get an immunity to their cancer. I'm proud to say that about 24 women followed me to Cormanis to be treated by Dr. Littrop. They were all treated successfully, and they're all alive and healthy today. We were so excited and hopeful about my successful outcome that we wrote this book. They're mine, and I'm keeping them based on my journal, going through the process, interviews and writing by Dr. Littrop, and expertly narrated by my husband, Alex. Alex also included reference support. This book is now available online through Amazon and Kindle and paperback. Our hope in writing and releasing this book will help let women know that cryoablation works and may be a superior way to conserve, to keep their breasts and get an immune effect. We want women to know that this is a better way to treat breast cancer. I'd like to encourage you doctors to share the success stories of your patients and to follow the lead of Fuda's Dr. Xu with this wonderful book, Nothing But the Truth. This book has been a great inspiration for patients and their families being treated at Fuda. It's a terrific tool in spreading the word about cryoablation. Even if you don't write a book, I hope you will make yourself available to speak about your work using cryoablation and to share the story of your successes. My treatment was not without some difficulties, and due to the lack of knowledge about cryoablation, and I thought you doctors might like to know a few. There were three main problems. The first involved the immune effect. I returned to my home in Oregon on the west coast of the United States 3 days after my treatment in Detroit, Michigan, where Dr. Littrop was. Michigan's in the middle of the United States and Oregon is on the west coast. Soon after my return, I developed fevers and chills with no other symptoms. My doctors were confused about it as much as I was. It was years later that one of the women contacting me through the website told me this reaction was most likely a sign that the immune effect was kicking in. Anecdotal information, like when the immune effect does kick in and what symptoms this creates in a woman's body, might be something researchers would like to keep track of. Sharing information like this would be very helpful to potential patients considering this treatment. They will still be patient pioneers like I was and would like to know if symptoms they weren't expecting have a reason for happening. The second problem I had was how to read the checkup MRIs. I got my follow-up treatment in Portland, Oregon, where cryoablation is unknown as a treatment for breast cancer. My operation had been done in Detroit, and that is a different hospital system. The new healthy tissue replacing the frozen tissue in my breast looked to my doctors in Portland like the cancer was returning. Dr. Lichtrup explained to them that the new growth was not cancer, but they disagreed and said the treatment was a failure and never should have been tried. To resolve this issue, I was invited back to Detroit and Carmanis, where I spent much of the day in an MRI machine getting a special test that was interpreted by 3 very smart-looking specialists. This type of test is only available in a very sophisticated facility like Carmanis. At the end of the long test, I was declared cancer-free in every cell of my body. This was the medical confirmation I had originally set out to get with my intention, and a dramatic conclusion for Dr. Lichtrup's experiment on me. Cryoablation could be successfully used for women's breasts for breast cancer. The third problem came when I began radiation 3 months after my operation. My health insurer insisted on the same protocol as a lumpectomy. Dr. Lichtrup also believed that radiation as a follow-up treatment was a good idea, but he told me to keep it off as long as I could so that my hematoma, the bruise ball, could be eaten by the immune system as much as possible before radiation started. Well, the hematoma had reduced to at least half to 2/3 the size, basically from the size of a grapefruit to the size of a peach pit. The radiation effectively stopped my body's ability to eat it up. And I was still left with a hard, large fat necrosis. Eventually, it became infected and needed to be surgically removed. Luckily, my surgeon had stuck with me and performed the operation. Despite this setback, I eventually won over the respect of my Portland doctors, and they took on other patients from my location that I had recommended go see Dr. Lichtrup for cryoablation for their breast cancer. My final remarks will be about my friend and Fuda patient, Faye Zaharovnik from Alberta, Canada. Faye, would you stand? Here she is. Dr. Lichtrup's cryoablation program was closed down 3 years ago due to government overregulation of the healthcare industry. His hospital no longer allowed women to self-pay for his services, but women were still coming to my website asking me where to get cryoablation done. I needed some place I could send them, but there was no place in the United States. I had known about cryoablation, I had known about Fuda Hospital in Guangzhou from my husband and his internet research. And I knew that Dr. Lichtrup had been to China in the late 90s on a trip hosted by the UN where he spread the word about it. I knew they treated breast cancer at Fuda, and it might be a good option if only I could persuade women to go. But nobody wanted to go to a place so far away and so foreign for something still so new and considered experimental. Faye's sister-in-law had found my website, and I first talked with Faye on the phone in the fall of 2012. Her husband, David, had found Fuda on his internet searches, and she was planning to go. She asked if I thought it was a good idea to go to Fuda. Faye was having a reoccurrence of an aggressive breast cancer. Not only did I tell her I thought it was a good idea, I told her it may be her only real hope, as she surely needed the immune response to attack her metastasized cancer. I asked if I could cover her story for our site. That's when she said I should come with her to check it out in person. I didn't have the time or the money, and it was a few weeks before Christmas, and I didn't want to go to China. But I knew in my heart that no Western woman, at least no American woman, would ever believe in Fuda unless another American woman went and checked it out. So I asked my filmmaker son Louis to help me make an internet fundraiser, and we were delighted when our friends and family quickly raised enough money to buy a plane ticket to China. And my husband sweetly added enough funding for Louis to join me. As it turned out, Dr. Littrop was going to be at Fuda during our stay. He was attending a conference similar to this in 2012. So the stars had aligned for me again. Not only did I get to be reunited with Dr. Littrop, I learned a lot by being able to attend the conference, as I'm sure you're learning a lot today. And I had Dr. Peter to help me understand some of the treatments going on with Faye. Part of what I learned was the terrific effect of Fuda's combined immunotherapy for cancer. It was very central to Faye's treatment. I learned that the CIC boosts the immune system ability to attack the cancer throughout the whole body, killing cancer cells before they have a chance to form into tumors and attacking remote sites of small tumors that have formed. I knew the immune effect did this, but I found out that adding the CIC helps prevent a reoccurrence. I was so impressed by Faye's results and those of the other Fuda patients using CIC, I brought my husband with me back to Fuda last April for us both to receive the CIC treatment here. Faye happened to be back at Fuda in April too then, getting more CIC for herself, although I have to tell you that all her other cancer symptoms, tumors, and everything were gone, very much impressing her Canadian doctors. She had a lot of success with radiation and CD implants and her septum treatments. And I was so impressed with Faye's successful diminishing of her cancer symptoms during my first Fuda visit that Alex and I added her story to our book. I gave a copy of that book to Dr. Shu last April, and his reaction was to ask us if he could publish the Fuda part of our book. Of course, we hope this will help spread the word. Faye is such a wonderful spirit and a keen fighter. For what she has been up against, I'm so impressed with her energy and general good spirits. And I'm also so impressed with the care she's got at Fuda. Dr. Littrop made an astute observation about Fuda when we were here together in 2012. He said China came into the allopathic cancer treatment business rather late than most Western countries. As a result, they were able to pick and choose the most effective treatments and put them together in innovative ways. Perhaps another reason the Chinese have embraced cryoablation that I've observed is their tremendous respect for the immune system, which is at the heart of the century-old traditional Chinese medicine. I totally appreciate that Fuda has a traditional medicine department where treatments were often included in a patient's care, where they are often included in a patient's care. Another strength here at Fuda is their personal approach for each patient, recognizing the uniqueness of the individual. In the West, we tend to get protocols that one size fits all. The first thing I was exposed at Fuda was the doctor-patient's meetings, where everyone gets an equal say in the patient's treatment, even the patient. Wow. One of my biggest challenges was the coordination of my doctor's care, and it was especially trying because I was trying to coordinate doctors between two hospital systems. I'm sure this is still going to be a challenge until it's widely available. My final image is of Faye and her sister Jelly, also here, who has been her faithful companion and supporter on all her trips to Fuda. The reference image for this picture was taken behind the Sun Yat-sen Auditorium here in Guangzhou. Faye hadn't seen much of China nor Guangzhou on all her trips. So one lazy, rainy Sunday, we hired a tour guide and took she and Jelly for a sightseeing tour. As you know, Sun Yat-sen is considered the father of the modern China, having helped get the revolution going that separated control from the emperor and giving power to the people. This was the location where the revolution got started. We, those of us in this room, are starting a revolution of sorts on how cancer is most effectively treated. I think this painting is a fitting image then for me to tell you my concluding remarks. I want to read you the words of Dr. Sun Yat-sen himself. In the construction of a country, it's not the practical workers, but the idealists and the planners that are difficult to find. All of you here today are attempting to build a new way of treating cancer patients. And in many ways, this is as difficult as building a country. Cryoablation is a better way of treating patients because it's less morbid, it's less expensive, and more effective at killing cancer. So I encourage you to become more than practical workers. I ask you to become idealists and planners to ensure that cryoablation is used throughout the world. Thank you.